Welcome to the Next Gen. We're here again for another podcast with a very, very, very exciting guest, someone who I think is my older sister, none other than Miss Neesha Hothi. Neesha Hothi is a Vancouver-based cultural strategist and communications leader with more than 20 years of experience in the field. And I'm talking about PR before there was PR, so we'll get into that shortly. Now, she's worked across music, arts, festivals, anything that you think about in the Lower Mainland. Neesha's had a hand in putting it together, literally. Founder and CEO of Niche Communications, and also has played such significant roles in senior communication roles all across platforms such as the Junos, the Olympics here in 2010, that was all her as well. And she's also the holder of the Vancouver 40 Under 40 honoree for this year? No, last year, 2025 YWCA Women of Distinction Award nominee as well, and nonetheless a winner of our Times of Canada Arts and Cultures Excellence Awards as well. So thank you, Neesha, and welcome to our podcast.
I'm so excited we finally made this happen. We've been talking about
it for so long, and then we made it happen. Thank you for being on, and thank you for driving to almost the border to come and join us.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like we're going to yap.
Oh, we're going to talk so much. I don't think we're going to get cut off at some point in this episode. To start, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball.
Okay.
And I mean, anyone that knows Neesha knows that you really created a career where there wasn't necessarily a career before. So how does it feel to really create your role, create your industry?
I always say that I charted my own path. I mean, the industry existed, obviously, media, marketing, PR communications, all those things existed. But I think specifically as a South Asian storyteller, as a South Asian arts and culture storyteller, that was a space that didn't really exist. And it also something that wasn't common for South Asians, let alone a South Asian woman. And so I think for me, I always kind of just saw something and an opening and found my own space. And it started early in my events career. As you said, I was at the Hudson's Bay Company that later got me into the Olympics and the Olympic Superstore. But I was working in retail and I looked up and I was like, oh, there's someone who runs events. Like, I want to run events. What does that mean? And so I kept saying in all of my professional development meetings that they're like, oh, where do you see yourself? And I was like, I see myself in events. And they're like, we don't understand. You sell shoes. Like, that's not the career path, right? Yeah. And so finally I had a manager who was like, okay, listen, like, why don't you just volunteer with them? Like, I'll pay you your shift fee, but go work at the cosmetics gala for a while or like help. And so I did. And then I had a co-op opportunity at SFU, like through my schooling. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take my opportunity and take it to HR and say, I'm going to work in the events department. So they're like, okay, fine, you can work for 4 months. And I also lied and said that they had to pay me equitable wages to people in that same role, which they did not. But anyway, so they did. Yeah. And then in that time frame, the manager, the first few weeks are like really just ignored me. Yeah. Like, who are you?
Girl that's in my field.
And I made myself invaluable. I read every document that was available to me. I went through all the folders and files. And one day there was something that needed to be done. She didn't have the time or capacity. I don't quite recall, but I turned around and said, well, I can do that. Yeah. She looked at me. She's like, you can? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So I went and I did it. So I made myself valuable to her. And by the time my co-op was done, which was in December, the next month started and I just kept working. I didn't say anything. I just kept working. And then HR brought me into the office and they're like, hey, so weren't you supposed to be done? I was like, yeah, but I can do 8 months, you know?
Yeah, I can stay here for as long as you need.
So they kept me for 8 months. And then in that time, the manager was leaving. Some stuff was happening. She was moving on. And for a short term after that, I just did her role as the events manager until one day they turned around and said, well, you've been doing it. Like, do you want to be the events manager? And I ended up being the youngest manager across the country, essentially, in a senior role like that.
That's amazing.
It was incredible. I mean, I was the youngest manager running the events and PR for a flagship store, flagships being like only the 6 stores across Canada. And then that led into me also being the event PR manager for the Olympic Superstore because we brought that in-house. And we brought Canada Olympic House, like COC House into the indoor space, the International Village, a private shopping lounge, like all of these things that happened. So all of that story is just to say that I wanted something and I put myself in front of it and I kept putting myself in front of it. And so I've done that with my entire career. There are places where I felt stories needed to be told. There were events that I wanted to see do better, be bigger, be better. And I just kept putting myself in those spaces and putting myself in front of those people to say, I can do it.
Yeah. And for everyone that hasn't seen it, you were also on the cover of the Vancouver Sun. And it's the cutest baby Neesha photo ever with the mittens. And I just remember seeing that and just like you've been a rock star forever. Like
That was such a great moment. I was really grateful. I was in media a lot early on in my career, and I've been a media spokesperson for so many different projects and people. But I started as the spokesperson for the Hudson's Bay Company and then the Olympic Superstore. And I used to have media touring from all over the world, like all over the world coming through. Yeah. And I remember that day, and the Sun reporter and the photographer, he wanted to take some cool photos with the mitts. He was trying to make it look cool. So you'll actually notice there's someone behind me also like holding their hands up. So it looks like I have 4 hands. Yeah. And the photo looks slightly distorted. So I look like very skinny and I have 4 hands. But I was the cover of the Vancouver Sun, like front page, above the fold. And if anyone who's worked in media knows, like that's the money shot. Like that's the spot you want to be. And the funny thing about that was it was on, it was outside of everyone's, hotel rooms and all this stuff. And I had VPs in town from Toronto who happened to have landed that day, and they said, we landed and we saw your face. And I was like, yes.
This is what I wanted.
Yes, nailed it.
Made it happen. I think that's huge advice for everybody else too. Like I think on this podcast, we're always, okay, what's advice for the next generation? But it's really putting yourself out there and making what you want happen. And I haven't honestly heard a better example of that than that story. So I'm selling shoes, but I'm going to make it and I'm going to run your event.
I'm going to be the events department. Like there was no events department. There was one person
running all the events. That is insane.
Yeah, it was. And that was crazy too. But like the fact that it wasn't a department, it was a single manager who ran the events and had people coming in and paying for, marketing teams, et cetera, like guerrilla marketing teams. And I was like, I want to be in that department. They're like, that isn't a department. Like, it's one person.
It's one person, but then you took it over. You were the manager there.
I did.
And now I'm going to get to niche PR. I always look at who you're working with, and I think that you are so amazing at taking maybe people that are just starting off and really accelerating their growth. What makes you choose clients, or do you let clients come to you and find you naturally?
It's such an interesting question because I think early on, so when I left the Hudson's Bay Company and the Olympic Superstore, I kind of felt like, I've plateaued in this space. Like, what else do I want to do? And I was also really getting into communications and PR. Twitter was a big thing, all of these things. And I really liked that space. I loved the win of like getting a story told. And I started freelancing for some other agencies and doing work with them. And a lot of my clientele in those spaces was entertainment, hospitality, and I excelled in those spaces. I love being on site. I already understand what the on-site world is about because I had the events background. And so I got it. And I also knew how to finesse the talent and the agents, but I knew how to talk to the media. Worked out really well. But a mentor of mine said to me, she goes, Neesha, you can't just like continue to freelance forever. Do you want to go in-house? Do you want to do your own thing? What do you want to do? What few people know is while I was at the Bay, I also had a side company, and it was specifically focused on South Asian marketing. And I had a partner at the time, and we really were the go-to. And I kept that idea and that feeling in my back pocket. The reason I did that was because I was already going to those events, supporting those organizations, getting myself involved. VIBC was around back in that day. I had started volunteering with them, working with them early on. There were so many organizations doing things. South Asian Family Association, Desi Fest came to Vancouver. They had a time where they traveled from Toronto to Montreal to Vancouver.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so there were all these things happening in the community that I wanted to be a part of. And so that company did work with them. And so after a few years, I continued to do that work independently as well. And I wanted to be able to take on those clients. But I knew if I went in-house somewhere, I couldn't do that. Yeah. And it was such a part of me, my personality, and my passion to support the South Asian arts and culture community that I wasn't going to give that up. Mm-hmm. That meant I have to have my own. That meant I needed the ability and autonomy to choose my clients and be able to work with them. So then, I started my own thing, and it's scary, very scary. But how did I early on? Early on, I'm not gonna lie to you, there's 50% I need to pay the bills.
Yeah, I'll take you.
Hi, you would like to work with me? Great. And then there was what fits. Yeah. And I think as you start to develop your confidence and really understand your work and your working style, you understand what clients are the best fits for you, right? And that was really important. I remember the first time I had to fire a client, which was basically me politely saying like, maybe this just doesn't, maybe we're not the best agency for you, which is so hard when you're trying to make all the money and grow and do all the things.
And then at this point, was it just you? Like you were a niche PR?
And so I had always had contractors and I had a contractor model, but I mean, ultimately I am the leadership. I am the one making the decision, and it was really hard. And I was also often acting as account manager early on because, I didn't want to have contractors who maybe couldn't keep the same level of, communication or didn't have the full awareness of the client, whatever that might look like. And so all this is going on. And now, like if we fast forward to today, I think it's very much about fit and culture. Like, do we fit? Do we have the same ideas? Do we want to accomplish the same goals? Do we work in the same way? I jokingly say, like, we're a plan on a page agency.
Yeah.
If you want an agency with like lots of decks and all that, that's on us, because we are about doing the work.
Yeah.
Like, we are about execution.
And I see that in you everywhere. Like, if you have ever seen Neesha at an event, she has her clipboard and it's live notes, it's live changes. She's making it happen as she goes. And I don't think I admire anything more than that, because you'll have a script, you'll see something happen and scrap it. Like, just from the beginning, create something new that flows better with what's going on. And I just haven't seen anybody move like that in a very long time. So I admire that so much in you.
And that's experience. It's experience of knowing the crowd, knowing the group, understanding that you have to react, all of those things. And I think for me at this point in my career, it's, do you understand me and value what I bring to the table? Yeah. And if you do, and we work in similar ways and we respect each other and we have a good working relationship, I'm all for it. But also, are you telling a story I care about? Yeah. You know, is this something that I can get behind and I'm passionate about? We still have so many clients in the South Asian arts and culture space. Like, that is still my ultimate passion. I am a South Asian arts advocate and have been for over 20 years now. That will always be a part of my practice. That will always be a part of the work I do. But then, let's be honest, I have worked in the mainstream my entire career, and I work with major artists, major music industry professionals, and major festivals and events. And so that work that I do, I'm able to take what I learned from that, the mainstream corporate world, and bring it back to my South Asian community and clients to ensure that we are also operating that same level of excellence.
Definitely. And I honestly, you just touched on it too. I was going to start mentioning Faded in the Park, any festival that I've ever seen, you're always posting it first. So when I was younger, I'd be like, okay, like I know that if it's up on Neesha's story, the tickets are out. I can start honing in on it.
We've done concerts, we've done festivals, we've done so many. I mean, this last year it was really exciting. Like, we went to Calgary, and we helped launch a new the renovation of a very well-known bar and stage called Commonwealth. We did that work. Obviously, we had Badlands in Calgary, we had Faded here. You know, we had 5X. We also went over to Toronto to help work with SAMA, which is the South Asian Music Accelerator. It's the first program of its kind. So these are like really exciting projects. But we also just wrapped the Olympics. We're talking about the Olympics. We just wrapped the Junos. And so the Juno Awards were here in Vancouver in 2025. They go from city to city across Canada every year. So in 2026, they're in Hamilton. But the last two iterations in Vancouver, 2018 and 2025, I acted as director of marketing, and Niche Communications was the PR agency of record.
We love.
Yes, we did. We did so much. And so there are just so many things. And that's just the small snippet. There are so many independent campaigns and clients. Like, we've worked with Music BC, we've worked with MRG, we've worked with so many of the major players in the Lower Mainland, in BC, in Alberta, and Ontario, that I'm so proud of. We've worked in LA, we've worked in Ottawa. We've really had a lot of great experiences, and I'm so grateful for that, because it makes me who I am today, but it also brings that breadth of experience with us.
Definitely. And I love that you always keep that, as you said earlier, the cultural storytelling side of it, where you want our South Asian artists to be able to pursue bigger things and not just stay maybe an indie artist, or, okay, we're doing this, but the mainstream culture is doing this, so we're missing out on all of that. And I always think it's so amazing that you literally live this corporate world and you bring it back. You're like, okay, guys, like, tips and tricks. Like, we need to do this better.
100%.
And I've seen you do it personally too, like with South Asian artists, especially people that are local. Guys, we can't act like this, or we need to stop doing this. We need to do this now. And I think some people take that as really blunt advice sometimes, but I enjoy that so much, because if you don't tell us, no one else is going to tell us how to actually push, our culture forward and really go forward with our music, or even my events. I always notice the little things do matter. And I feel like the only one to tell me, again, usually from a PR perspective, is you. Like, hey, that didn't look great. How about we fix this? Let's do it this way.
I try to be really tactful. I mean, at the end of the day, I am very straightforward. And that works for some people, and it doesn't work for some people. And that's okay. Like, it is okay to not be everyone's cup of tea. And I think it's also okay to know who you are and be okay with that and be comfortable with that. I'm never going to be rude to you or tell you that, it was bad. I'm going to say, like, hey, Anjali, like, kind of noticed this thing. I would suggest maybe doing it this way, just because it can be perceived this way, or it can look that way. Or, hey guys, when we show up, like, let's try to, keep our like space or what we're doing to a minimum because we've got to recognize that there's a bunch of other artists here and we want to be like respectful and all these, whatever it might be, right? I also will say to people what's news and what's not news, because when we're so close to it, we'll be like, oh my God, this is such a great news story. And I'm like, maybe not.
Maybe
like
not,
to us it is. Maybe it's a great social story. Maybe it's a great digital story. There's other ways to tell stories, and it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I think we get really riled up as a community, be like, why isn't this covered?
Like we need it right now.
Why isn't this the thing? And sometimes I have to get everyone to step back and be like, okay, but like, let's look at it from a different perspective. And let's look at it, if it wasn't us, like, would it still be the same? Would we feel the same? And how do we get the story told? There are ways to get the story told. It just might not be right now.
And it might not be in the tone that sometimes we want to tell the story.
Might not be perfect, yeah. I can't control it. That's the problem with media. As you know,
exactly.
I can tell you, hey, Angela, here's the story.
But if the tone's wrong, it's wrong, and then it can completely dismantle everything we've built. So I think you do amazing at the, okay, maybe we shouldn't do this right now. Or
well, I can pitch you, but I can't control media, right?
Yeah.
I can't control what the story becomes. I can't control if you get a mention. I can't control if you get a feature. I can push for it, and I can argue for it, and I can make the case. And once it's happening, I can give them all the right data and information. But on the other side of it, it can be very different. And this is getting very technical, but like, I mean, I go so far back as to like, I did so many music festivals in Kelowna back in the day, like Center of Gravity and Kaloha. Like this is like 2012, 2013, like back in that time. And I was doing a lot of Fan Expo stuff at that time too. Fan Expo was kind of like a Comic-Con style for Canada. And what I found was I was dealing so much with agents because it's all like on site, you know, interview management, etc. And I found that became my sweet spot. Like working in the agent space and like kind of being in the green room and like getting them to understand the why behind why this interview or this piece was important. But on the flip, I'd be telling the media, like, I'm working my for you and trying to make this happen. So you're gonna like work with me and make this good. This story, like, let's keep it about this, not this, etc. So you have to get, for me, in my role, bring both sides to the table. I do so much of that at Reflandia still, which is a music festival in Victoria. And I basically spend 4 days of my life like working with tour managers and on-site managers, trying to be like, how do we navigate all the things we got to do?
Like make this good for everybody.
Totally.
What has been, I guess now that we've mentioned it, what has been your hardest maybe client interaction or interaction behind the scenes that no one knows about?
It's so interesting. I think being young and a young woman who had her own company, who was saying, I can do your events, I can do your storytelling, but that also meant that I would probably be leading in some capacity, like leading strategy or leading event design or trying to say like, I think we should do this versus this. I think this setup's going to be better. I think this is going to, be better from a logistical standpoint, or this will be more cost effective, et cetera. And then you have people who are maybe not experts in those spaces, but older than you, telling you this is what it is, or this is how it should be. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I found this mainly in the South Asian space, mainly with the Old Uncles Club.
It's everywhere. Yeah. It's the Old Uncles Club, or I feel like more than any, actually maybe I can't say that, but from my personal experience, I've never felt that kind of ostracizing and being like, you don't know what you're doing anywhere but the South Asian community.
Yeah, I mean, I worked so heavily in mainstream and I was so respected, even as a young person. I'm not going to say that I was never, told like, hey, listen, you're young in your career, you need to learn some things. I was, and I should have been. Like, there are definitely learnings I had to take in my 20s, and I like look back on them and I'm like, yes, that was great. But I also think that there is a way that we need to respect our youth in our community and really encourage them to take those leadership roles, to help support them in when they come to the table with ideas, strategy, etc. And also, if they are experts in their spaces, give them that opportunity.
I always remember the social media burst. No one took that seriously. Like, there were so many young people that were like thriving. You're making careers on just working online. You're an influencer, or you're marketing for a company. And all those companies that listened to like their Gen Z or millennial employees are the ones that had this huge social media presence, had this ad push that now everyone's following. It's the whole, I always joke about it, you just mentioned like, the uncle's not taking it seriously. Oh, like fonte ya, like it's not anything important. And then look at you now. Now you have to do it or you're behind.
First mover advantage, right? If you were able to take that first move and be ahead of the game, you won, right? You swing big, you win big. And it doesn't always work, I get that, but there are ways to get data points to say like, okay, back up what you're saying. Like, okay, I hear you. I maybe don't know this. I think this. Can you give me some reasoning? Can you give me pros
Yeah.
and cons? Can you give, there's another way to approach this versus just no or like you don't know. And I think that really dissuaded me for some time. There was definitely a couple of years where I stepped back from the community and I said, you know what? I'm really good where I am. I'm getting support, recognition, great clients, like respect. Why am I busting my tail here trying to make sure that I'm doing all this work? I obviously came back and I was always at the events because I love it and it's so important to me. But we've also evolved. I have seen such a change and shift in the community.
Yeah.
There's so many incredible young people doing such great work, yourself included.
Thank you.
I always say to you, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you for taking up space, for saying I'm going to do things a little bit differently, for bringing new ideas to the table, saying we're going to do things this way. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do interviews with these people. I'm going to go on site and do things a little bit differently. Our social media is going to be a priority. You know, you've taken things like I'm going to do women's empowerment. I'm going to do an entire event around it. You've taken what you can of it and made it yours so that you can start to step into that role and like continue to take more and more of that.
I'm like, we need more of this. So just thank you so much. I always joke about it. I feel like everyone on this podcast has heard enough, but I don't think you hear that from your parents ever, like being from a South Asian family. So when I hear it from people that I admire, I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Like I made it.
But I think that's so important and we need to do that, right? Like we need to give more of that to our youth. We needed it. I needed it when I was younger. The generations before me needed it. But also like, I'm not going to lie to you, there's also resilience that gets built in that. And I will say resilience is one of the most important skills that you can learn as a young professional. The corporate world, life in general, like it's not easy.
It's hard. You just have to pick your hard. Like,
Pick your hard. Yeah, pick your hard. And learning how to become resilient, learning how to continue moving is the most important because it's not always about like, so you don't need permission to start.
Yeah.
You need the discipline to sustain.
Yep.
You need the discipline to continue moving. When you don't want to get up and do the thing, you need the
have
discipline.
to do the thing.
When you don't want to send the email, you got to do the thing. When you don't want to have the hard conversation, you got to do the thing. And that's the hard stuff. And sometimes it's not even the hard stuff. It's just, okay, what's the one next thing I can do? I've had this quote in my office for years, and it's do one thing today that your future self will thank you for.
I love that.
And it's just a small way to remind myself that like right now, I don't want to do it. But if I do
Tomorrow,
this,
you're going to be so thankful that you did it.
yes.
And also, like, even just the next day is so much easier if you get everything done the day before if you can.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'm really like, okay, do I want to deal with this tomorrow or today? And, like, if you put it off, it's tomorrow. Because I think, especially in the roles that we're in, it's you're dealing with it at any point anyway. So if I can get it done today, like, I'll cry today, why would I cry tomorrow? So we're just going to do it.
100%.
Get it done. I think we actually touched on this, like, off camera, but it was something that I think a story that really stuck with me was that you call everybody Baji. Yeah, you're not an uncle. And then I've been when I was introduced especially to the space, I think I did make the mistake of everyone was my Uncle G. Like, like giving everybody like the kind of respect that you've done more than me almost. And doing that to myself. But I'll let you tell it, because I mean.
So it was very interesting. And once I explain it to people, especially from the outside in, so I call people gentlemen, South Asian gentlemen in the industry, if I'm working with them, I call them Baji. If it's a non, like, you know, first name basis type of relationship, or if they're kind of doing that to each other. If someone else is saying like Uncle G or whatnot, I might say Baji. And the reason I do that is because I'm trying to keep the relationship as peer-to-peer. I might be younger than you, but in this space where we're having this conversation, I am your peer and we're having this conversation in that way. And it's actually been a great thing for me. It has created that level of respect and understanding, and it kind of has set a tone. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I do absolutely believe in respecting your elders. I think it's very important. I think that is the community values that we have. And I am all about sustaining those values and bringing them forward. In a work perspective, just because of some of the experiences I had, I didn't appreciate kind of being spoken down to, oh, but you don't know, but that. And I was like, not your pot. Yeah. You know, and in this scenario.
Not your pot. That's going to be my next version, not your pot.
But it wasn't because they were coming at it from a place of love. They were coming at it from a place of like, I know better. I'm telling you, you don't know. No. And very few of those people, and I'm going to be honest, like this is a handful of select people. Like, I'm not saying that everyone in the industry is like this or that every South Asian male of that generation is like this. I'm not. But those few people had made me feel really small. Yeah. And they'd also taken away all of the merit that I had in my work. Like I had real like experience behind me to back up.
Oh, you 100% did. And to have someone walk into your space and just not acknowledge everything that they've done is really crazy to me.
So when you have the experience behind you to back up your decision making, and then you're being spoken down to as if you don't, I had to find other nuanced ways to start to reset the imbalance of power. And that was one way to do it. And so that's my story. But I won't lie, there's like one example where I think I saw someone in a different scenario, like I think it was like with my in-laws or something, and then I was like, no problem, Uncle G. And it was kind of like a smirk, haha. And like, it was fine. It was because they understood. There comes a point where you hold your ground for long enough, whether it's with your parents or your friends or your boyfriend or whatever, you hold your ground for long enough without being rude or disrespectful, but just firm and clear. People actually understand it, in the long run respect it, and then things come back around. It takes time.
I love the quote that it's better to be kind than it is to be nice, because nice is avoiding the conversations now, and kind is we're going to get done with this because I appreciate and respect you.
Yes.
And I think it's literally that in any space now, where if you're trying to be nice, you're eventually, it's going to come around. You can only be nice for so long and like sugarcoat and keep things away from people, because the truth at the end of the day is the truth, right? Like you just got to say it.
But I will also say there's another side of that coin, which is like not everything needs to be said. There is like, life is long. The corporate world is small. Vancouver is even smaller.
It's tiny. I didn't realize that till I started really working in the industry. I'm like, oh, everybody knows everybody. Like you're not getting away from anything that you do in this community.
Sometimes it's more important to clock things than it is to say that you clocked it. Knowing it and being able to operate from a place of knowing gives you power. Right? Knowledge is power.
Leverage.
You know something. It's not even necessarily leverage, because leverage means you're going to try and you're going to pull that lever at some point. It's actually more about how you make your decisions. You now know who people are, how they operate, and you can decide accordingly, right? You can decide whether to engage with them as a partner or a vendor. You can decide whether to work with them. You can decide whether you want to, support them in certain ways and to what level of support. And you're like, hey, cool, I'll repost your thing, but I'm actually busy that night, or what that looks like. You can set your boundaries, which is really important. Boundaries setting in our community, in this industry, an industry where you're invited to everything, you have
it's hard. Like, I don't think I have, people ask me that question all the time, like boundaries. Like, I'm not at a place yet to give advice in the way that you are, because I don't think I have the best boundaries yet.
It's an ongoing process to learn boundaries. You will set some, you will get very comfortable with some, and then a certain situation will happen, you'll be like, oh, that's an area that I haven't figured out my boundaries or set my boundaries in a way, or set them in a way that was proactive, right? So boundary setting is something that you'll continue to come back to throughout your life, because your life changes, the people around you change, your needs change, the needs of your business change. But boundary setting is an active practice. It is something you have to continuously practice to do. And I don't think that any of us are perfect. I mean, I'm not perfect. I am
definitely not. So sorry, everybody out there. I am trying my best.
No, but I think that the flip to that is grace and empathy. I think we have to give each other grace and we have to give each other empathy and understanding. Like, it's okay to not be perfect. What I would rather have is someone be honest and transparent and not perfect than, not tell me what's going on or not be honest. Like, have the difficult, maybe messy conversation, hear the upset, the anger, mine, yours, whatever, and then get to the end of it, right? It's not a black hole then.
Yeah, and solution oriented, you're coming to a conclusion. I think that sometimes what you need to is okay, where does this end? Because you have to roll forward. You don't really have a choice you don't be in that black hole for a very long time.
Time will move on. You will continue moving, and either something is this open loop or it's not, right? And sometimes an open loop just stays open.
Yeah, and it never closes.
It never closes,
It's just scary. I'm like, that's what we don't want. Let the loop go. Let the black hole be over there.
Let them, like you said, right?
Yeah, let them. Oh my gosh, she watches my podcast.
I do. I listen to my sister on this new podcast.
I love it. Now, I feel like we've talked a lot about culture. In 20 years of working in the industry, what do you think's changed the most?
And
we could do the scene after, because I would love to hear about what the scene was like then and what we're doing now
in
our partying.
The scene was a vibe. We had a great scene. But I will say the scene was a vibe because we had each other and only had each other. So let me back up. I think that if we're talking about South Asian arts and culture and how that's changed, I think that it is so much more prevalent in the spaces that it wasn't before, right? Like, it's not just beware of the boys that you hear at the club.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh,
That
that's
was
our
the
token.
worst. Like, the Munnet the Bachka is still, I go places and I'm like, nice.
Yeah.
This is
your one
amazing.
token moment. You're like, oh, okay,
And then everybody's like doing this on the dance. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is what we're doing today.
Yeah. So, that 5 minutes of fame, we're way past that, right?
Right.
Our artists are known. They've been on covers. They're on the radio. Their names are being said on mainstream podcasts and broadcasts, etc. That's the difference, right? Like, it is far more prevalent. It is far more ingrained into what I call the fabric of Canadian pop culture. Yeah. We were always there, but I think now it's like in the tapestry in a better way.
We don't feel like we have to turn down the volume anymore.
100%.
I remember going to school and being like, Mom, like, turn off Red FM. I was like, turn the volume down right now. And now it's like, okay, people know the songs.
People know the songs, right? I mean, it's still like, it's not perfect, and it always will have a ways to go. We are never never say never, but we are not the populace. We're still not the 80%, right? And that's fine. But we are so much more known, so much more aware from a mainstream culture standpoint. That is the change, and it's very obvious and evident. The last few years in particular, we've seen like the Punjabi music wave. We've seen Billboard covers. We've seen Karan Aujla at the Junos. We've seen him on the radio. Diljit is selling out BC Place. Like, these are
like insane things going on in the last couple of years.
Insane. And you see now, like, okay, Breaking Borders is doing this massive South Asian festival and like in Malta and all. And as a South Asian arts advocate, I'm going to tell you, my spidey senses and my stress has always been, is this sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? And
to make sure this keeps going on and we're not going to, wave off of it.
Yeah. My long-term goals here are less about, is it hot right now? It's like, what happens in another 10, 20, 30, right? I've been doing this work for 20 years. It's changed. We've gotten here. What's going to happen in the next 20? It's very important to me that the work we do now set a foundation for sustainability of South Asian arts and culture. That's one thing. So the other piece to it is, I think we're also far more comfortable. I think there were, there was the immigrant generation, the first gen, the children of immigrants. I think as every generation evolves, we're far more comfortable owning our culture and owning our spaces and saying like, that's who I am. I'm bringing my jaw in my mug, and I'm bringing I don't bring coffee in my morning mug.
No, I bring my jaw.
That's what it is. Like, you want to come to my house for the holidays? Yes, you're coming for Diwali. Yeah. We're gonna here. I'm gonna give you a dupatta. I'm gonna give you here. Amazon yourself a suit. Like, if I can buy an outfit for someone else's stuff, so can you.
Exactly.
Like, we are far more comfortable being like, this is what it is. This is how we celebrate. Come to my house and check it out. And that's incredible. Like, we're bringing people into our community and cultures in a different way, in a very relaxed, conversational way.
Oh, definitely. It's normal. And I love like, try the pakode. You'll have people being like, oh, I love samosa when I come to your house. Like, can you drop them off? And it's a positive mingle rather than what I feel used to be like a negative. Like, oh, that's what you're eating, or oh, that's what you're celebrating.
I want to hide my lentils because it's dal, and oh my God. And now everyone's like, you have lentils?
Wow, healthy.
Yeah, so good.
This is such a sidebar and like an unnecessary thing, but when Starbucks came out with their golden turmeric drink, I don't know why I was so angry. Like, this is such an thing that riles me up to this day for no reason. I'm getting mad right now. And I'm like, it's just haldi dud. Like, back in the day, you would have like something haldi stained and people would make fun of you, and now you're drinking literally like milk and haldi, and you made it a $7 beverage.
Girl, the other day someone tried to tell me like, oh, so like you're not feeling well. Oh, you should have turmeric with and I was like, girl, please. Like,
I was doing this from the beginning.
This as a child. Like, got this.
And like, my mom literally used to have to force me to drink this. Now we're doing this for fun. Like, I used to think this was the lamest thing ever. Like, oh, my mom is making, like, oh, now we're paying for it.
No, we're paying $7 for it. Like, no, thank you.
But anyway, full venture off that side. I don't know why that makes me so angry.
But it's because it's the, what's the word I'm looking for? The appropriation of our culture. But we weren't proud of it then. And now we're like, wait, you want it? No, that's mine.
That's mine. Give it back.
Yeah, give it back.
It's the same with the boho styles or like the whole
wearing the
Scandinavian
Coachella,
scarf.
the Scandinavian scarf, like all of it. The, the matapatis, the hand pieces, all of it. That was all of what we loved. And I'm not gonna lie to you, you go back into my 20s, you're gonna see that I used to wear like a hand piece with my crop top. And I used to take these like beaded dupatte and make them wear them as belts. Like, I've always been that person who like wanted to bring that in
culture
because I love, like, it wasn't even that I would tell anyone what it was. I just wore it for fashion. I was like, this is cool. It's a vibe, right? But now as a community, as a culture, and especially next generations are far more comfortable and have no problem saying like, this is what it is. We're also seeing ourselves represented more in different places. Like, Hair Oil Magic. It's a book about the beauty of oiling your hair and the storytelling between generations, right? Yeah. Animation, who is a Burnaby-based graphic designer, created that book. Like, that storytelling that we're doing for the future generations, like, that's incredible. Inquisitive, as you had, you had Ink on the show, a good friend. Yeah. But his work, he's crossing, like, he's got religious work, he's got cultural work, but he's also got like hip hop, rap, he's got pop icons, he's got the mainstream stuff, he's doing commissions. Like, there is a worldwide recognition of him as an artist. And so all of that, like, I wrote about Ink 10 years ago when he was starting, right? Yeah. For a very short stint, I was an editor I was editor-in-chief at a magazine for 2 years, and I wrote about Ink. And like, he was just starting out. And now you see what Umman's accomplished. And this is what I mean. Like, that's the change, right? That is, I think, what was most exciting for me to see in the last 10, 20 years.
This is not to like not get not deep, which I love that conversation, but now it changes in the scene on a more surface level. Like, what did you guys used to do versus what we do now? Because I have to say that the clubs are dead. Like,
clubs are dead. The club scene is dead, though. That has nothing to do with
the scene. Yeah. Exactly. But I just, taking that away, sorry everybody out there, the next gen, you guys are going to figure out what you think is fun, because I had my bar none days. Like, I was having a great time at Yaletown, but I think it's like, I go down there and I'm like,
Atlantis, Richards, Voda. These are places that you didn't even go. Okay?
Yeah, no, I'm like, Dad, tell me about
what? And there's like places before that I didn't go, or that had just changed over. Or I didn't go because I was underage, so don't tell anyone. But all of those. So the club scene was big, right? That was the scene. But also recognize that we had to go downtown, or we had to go somewhere else to go party. That was one thing. You didn't have places like locally. Also, we weren't allowed to throw house parties. We weren't allowed to have our friends over. We weren't supposed to have boyfriends. So this whole idea of like, now y'all are having your boyfriends over and your friends over and this basement party, like, that didn't happen.
That's so
right?
True.
So there was nowhere to go. That's one part of it. The second is, we also had like, our culture was so siloed. So where were you enjoying the culture that wasn't a wedding reception?
Yeah, nowhere, right?
So first it was the idea of like the, university college formals, which is like, okay, get dressed into your
SFU formal was my time.
SFU formal. I did that. I went to the UBC boat cruise. I went to SFU formals. So you would get into your lenga, your sari,
you're dressed you'd
hitch the sari way down low. You'd wear a really tall crop top. You'd wear
that was the low rise days too. Low rise days. Oh my goodness.
So you accentuated your outfit in the way that you couldn't wear to the reception, right? You went looking all great, and you went, and that was a lot where a lot of people were meeting each other. That's a lot of where the partying was happening in that first round of things. And then you also had cultural events. So like I said, like VIBC days. So now you've got Bhangra competitions, which were massive across North America. So if you had a Bhangra competition, that meant you had 200 plus dancers from across North America coming.
All together.
Plus maybe some of their homies and friends who were like, yo, we're coming too. And then you had this group of people who were like in that world and all knew each other and kind of stayed connected.
Because I think it was a space to listen to what we now is like mainstream Punjabi music. You would have to listen to like that. And I don't think I've ever clocked that before.
That's how you learned it. That's where you found it. I mean, that's part of it. And then there were after parties to those events, etc. But then there was also locally, there were a few groups who were really pushing to get us to have spaces or nights in downtown Vancouver and club nights. So, what first maybe started as VIBC's events or after parties, etc. At some point, a company called A-Town started doing Ginger 62, right?
I've only seen the Instagram old memes.
Yeah,
of that,
so it was called High Society at Ginger 62. Ginger 62 was a club. We used to just call it Ginger 62, but it was High Society. So that was a party. It was last Thursday of the month, and it was over 25, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I always went and I wasn't over 25, but whatever.
Because she was cool. She had an in.
I was cool. I had an in. And then there were other groups that popped up, like promoter companies. And so, HOD Productions, Versar Media, I can't even remember all of them. But they all started doing these parties, and slowly that became okay and normal. Because prior to that, if you were trying to go downtown as a group of brown people, you're like greasing the bouncer and you're going to mainstream music nights, and that's fine too. Yeah. But we didn't have a place where you could go wear your Western gear and go to just a regular club, but listen to South Asian music. So that started to be okay. And now I just feel like the need for that, there are still many of those nights. Like HOD Production still does events. There's some of those nights still exist. I know that there are other groups that are still doing that. Like I don't go anymore. It's okay. But there are still nights.
If you wanted to.
Totally. I mean, I've still gone. I'm not gonna lie. I've still gone. I've gone here and there. I did pop into an HOD event recently just to show like some love. But what I would say is that it's not as needed because we have spaces in other places, right? We're comfortable listening to it on the radio. We're comfortable listening to it at home, house parties, having our friends over. Like we can go wherever we want. It's ingrained now. We don't have to have like a siloed space for it. And I think that in its own way is better. But also the world has changed. Club culture has changed. People aren't partying in that way. People aren't drinking in that way. So much of that world has changed. And so, you know, where do you want to experience it? Do you want to experience South Asian music at a festival? Do you want to go to 5X and listen to it and go to 5X events where that feels right? Do you want to go to Breaking Borders? Do you want to just hang out at your friends? Do you want to go to a club where you're going to hear some of it? You want to listen to the radio, listen to Spotify? There's so many other places.
There's so many options now.